So what would I have done differently on my trip to the Arctic Ocean? Stay tuned and I'll tell you. The first thing that I would have done differently is not travel with a car or trailer. Now there's a lot to unpack there. So it ended up being more of a hindrance than a help. Yes, they took a couple of my bags and pulled the trailer. And the only reason they were pulling a trailer was because I got injured and I fractured a few ribs before I took off. So that set the stage for them pulling the trailer for 8,000 miles, build up resentment, and cars and motorcycles don't travel at the same pace, same speed. There were 4 people in, 3 people in the car and I was on the motorcycle. So just different paces, different ideas of what they wanted to do. And I'll get into more of that a little later. But I would say, having done lots of motorcycle trips, I would have not traveled with a sag wagon, if you will. My friend wanted to come, and that's kind of how this trip all started to begin with. It was like, this has been a dream of mine for years and years, to ride my motorcycle to the Arctic Ocean, because it's the Mount Everest of motorcycle rides. So I told her that, and she was like, yeah, I want to go. So she wanted to take her car, and then it kind of built from there. And, let's invite a couple of friends. So that's kind of how it started. And then I got injured, and then the trailer came into play, and I was like, please, please, please do not pull that trailer the entire way. You're going to get resentful, and so forth. So I'll touch on more of the people part of it a little later, but I would say it just feels more satisfying when you're just traveling with the bags that you have on your motorcycle. So I would have not done that. Although a lot of people said, you're so lucky you have but at the end of the day, I didn't need it and I didn't want it. So that's number one. Would have not traveled with another car or a sag wagon. Another motorcyclist, sure, but not, car and motorcycle do not mix on a trip like that. The other, number 2 thing I would have done differently on this trip is I would have probably taken a smaller bike. So this is the Africa Twin right here that I took on the trip. I also have a KTM 790 Adventure over there, which I think would have probably been the perfect bike. It's about 100 pounds lighter and it's a little more agile. So I think at the end of and it still can do road miles, not as well as the Africa Twin. The Africa Twin's a beast on the road. A little more comfort, luxurious, but it's so far to get up there. But I think I would have been okay on the 790. Obviously the KTM isn't going to be as reliable as the Honda, and you're really in no man's land up there. So that's part of the deal. So I would have liked to try it. And if I go again, and maybe I'll do the Dempster next year, who knows? I might try the 790 just because I love that bike. I love the Africa Twin too. It's just a little smaller, a little bit easier to manage on the dirt part of it, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, I did okay. I didn't lay it down. However, I think the KTM would probably do a little bit better off-road. Number 3 thing I would change, I would have more days off. So it was just, I felt like a mad scramble to get up there, and we were way ahead of schedule. There were some lodging problems. We couldn't get accommodation, so I had a 10-hour day followed by a 12-hour day. Just a lot of long days, and so we actually got ahead of schedule, and then we were kind of in Tok, Alaska, and Whitehorse with really extra time on our hands. There's not a whole lot going on in those towns. You don't get really into the heavy-duty scenery until you get into some deeper Alaska towns. But I would have just taken probably 5 days off total instead of just 2. It was a 24-day trip, and I only had 2 days off. So that would be one thing that, that would be the third thing I would change. It's just more rest days, not be in such a hurry to get up there. And then obviously on the way back, I was doing 7-8 hour days with 0 days off. So it would be nice to have a little more time. The fourth thing, less luggage and clothes. So I had 2 bags full of stuff that I really didn't need in the car. And when I came home, I ended up buying a couple duffels, which I only used one, at an REI up there in Fairbanks. And I managed to do just fine with that duffel and my 2 bags. I had 2 Moscow Moto bags on the side, and I had my hard box, Touratech hard box on the back. And that was plenty. I didn't really need more than that. I did have my laptop so I could edit some footage along the way. So I would definitely take a lot less stuff. I think I just didn't feel I had to think about being conservative on packing just because I had the car. And that's another thing. It's just, I think it made me take more stuff than I really needed, and I really didn't need it. So all my other trips, I just took what I could carry, and that was it. The next thing I would take, or I would change, is set, and this kind of gets into what I was touching about on number 1, set expectations for people on the trip. So I was in a unique situation. I never traveled with anybody in a car before when I was on a motorcycle. I've traveled with passengers on my motorcycle or other motorcyclists. I've never traveled with a car. And I think all 4 of us had different expectations of what the trip was going to be about. So that was part of the issue, was that, somebody had an agenda that they wanted to spend a couple of days in Denali. Somebody had another agenda. They wanted to hit some military bases. And I really didn't. And my agenda was get to the Arctic Ocean, clearly, because that's what this whole thing is about. And I wanted to film, and I wanted to stop. And some of the people who weren't driving in the car were resentful because the woman, driving the car was stopping every time I stopped, which didn't ask her to, but she wanted to be a team, and that was her agenda. Like, she wanted all us to travel all together, but that breeded resentment among the others, unfortunately. And I was just doing my thing, and I wanted to get as much good footage as I could to make some great videos and capture this amazing epic trip. So I would have had a meeting. I did talk to my friend Dimitri, and I just said, this is what we're doing. But apparently, so he was invited on the trip that we had planned. But to this day, he has not spoken to me since. So it's been 2.5 months. And I think he didn't want it to be about me filming the trip. He just wanted it to be about friends hanging out. But he knew I was going to be filming the trip. So I would say that's one thing for sure that I would have done, is just, hey, let's all 4 get on a call. Let's talk about, this is what's going to happen. This is what's not going to happen. And if you want to come along, great. If you don't, fine. And I guess I could have, a friend of mine said, well, you should have just stopped the trip at some point and just gotten everybody together. And I mean, I'm a therapist by trade, so yeah, I could have done that. But you know what? I'm on vacation. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm working and doing a group therapy session when I'm on vacation on the road. And the 3 of them were all capable of doing that too. I mean, they're not therapists, but we could have said, hey guys, let's talk about this. Nobody was talking to each other. It was like high school. It was really the only dark cloud over this entire trip. And I keep thinking about it and processing it and thinking about what happened, what went wrong. And I haven't talked to the other woman at all since the trip. And the Caroline, the one driving the car, we have spoken since, but it's just not the same. So I think that trip really revealed a lot and taught me some things. I definitely learned some lessons. The next thing I would change would be my climb gear. So I had this Climb Latitude jacket, Gore-Tex. I had one day where at 230 miles of solid rain, and I got wet. There was definitely wet. So I I tried spraying some stuff on it, and when I was up in Fairbanks, and it still didn't really work. Some rain resistant stuff. I can't remember what it's called. Like Nick Wax kind of stuff. I went in there and asked. That still didn't help. I put a fresh coating on that. I soaked the jacket in some water. That really didn't help. So I think I would have tested my gear. I mean, the jacket is from 2017, 18. They're supposed to have a lifetime warranty, so I'm probably going to contact them and let them know that the DWR coating on the outside isn't working, because it did look wet and it's not supposed to. It's just supposed to be that water. So I think I would have tested my gear a little more thoroughly for the rain. The next thing I would have changed would be a smaller tank bag. I did take I think it's the Nomax, which is Moscow Moto makes great tank bag. And it wasn't in my way or anything, but I didn't use it. I didn't use the capacity of the tank bag. And I really generally don't put a lot of stuff in tank bags, just historically. I did enjoy the bigger bladder for the hot days, especially on the way back. There was some definitely hot days that I enjoyed. The big bladder that they had in there, I think it's 2 liters, if I'm not mistaken. And that was good to have for sure. I have the smaller one. I have the smaller size Moscow Moto. I opted not to go with this because it's a big trip, but I wasn't stuffing it full of stuff. I wasn't using all those little pockets that you can. So I would probably just take the smaller one. I can't remember the name of it right now. I'll put it up on the screen. So that would be something else that I probably would do differently if I'm going to do the trip again. The next one's a big one. Hardwire the GPS. So I have my GPS plugged in the cigarette lighter. I guess not cigarette lighter, it's receptacle, whatever they call it on a motorcycle. And kind of powered my GPS. That's always worked for me, but the power kept cutting out, and I think that cord just maybe gotten loose in there. I had to kept pulling it out and putting it in. Hardwiring is just kind of a pain. I'm not really great with electronics and wiring and all that stuff, but for my next trip, definitely I'm gonna have this baby hardwired with the GPS or the KTM, whichever bike I take. That way I don't have to worry about that. It became a really big pain. It kept cutting out. The power kept cutting out and off. So the next one thing I would change would be, I would take more time in Alaska. I mean, it's a long way to get up there, and getting up there and then, getting the ocean. I had maybe a couple of days before I had to head back. So I think I would have definitely spent another 4 or 5 days. I would have liked to gone down to the Kenai Peninsula, into Homer and things of that nature, and some of those places. Instead of I went to McCarthy, which was great. I had a couple of nights there, but then it's like I had to boogie back. So I would have because it is so long to get up there, I would have taken a little bit more time to just soak in Alaska a little bit. Because now I want to go back, and because there's so much I didn't see, and of course you can't see it all in one shot. The last thing I would say that I would change on this trip: be prepared for smoke and or rain. I touched on the rain stuff a little bit earlier, but the smoke I was not prepared for. And how do you prepare for smoke? Well, you can wear, I have allergy masks that I wear sometimes. You could get one of those and put it over because my sinuses really react to smoke. So that's one thing I would have done, is maybe taken one of those masks with me and put it on through some of the smoky areas. And there were definitely a lot of smoky areas. And you also have to be ready to change your plans, because smoke, there were towns that were closed. because you could, or highways that were closed, and just you're changing your routes on the fly. And reservations are so hard to get there up in Alaska. Everything's booked months in advance, especially when you're traveling with 4 people. And that is another reason I decided to go my own way after Fairbanks, was because it's way easier to get accommodations. Dimitri got on a plane, went home. So it's just Caroline and Barbara that were traveling with. There's only 2, way easier. And I was by myself, and it's just much, much easier. So those are the things that I would change about the trip. Overall, still an amazing trip. You live and you learn. You go on the trip and, you know, you're like, okay, next time I won't do this. Well, we'll see if I get up to the Dempster next year or sometime. I kind of feel like once you get to the Arctic Ocean, you get there. I don't know that you need to do it twice. I think I really want to explore more of that southern peninsula area, Kenai and all that, next summer for sure. And we'll have some trips along the way. I'm going to have more videos coming up on various topics, a couple more on this trip, just kind of debriefing, and I want to go over how the bike performed and talk about that a little bit. So please like and subscribe, and always remember to blaze your own path. We'll see you next time.